Hi, everyone out there. Today we have another good one for you today. But I'm going to introduce, if you haven't seen the show already, I'm Shavak.
And I'm Eju. And today's a good one. Is actually it's a reaction. Usually we don't do these unless we're introducing a case. We're not introducing a case, but this one's a really weird one.
Yes.
Grandma hired a hitman to
To
do
what?
what? But before we get into that,
Yes, this is for education, entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and always be kind to everyone, friends, family, strangers.
and if you watched us before, welcome back. We appreciate you totally.
Yes,
You don't know how much we appreciate you guys. So thank you so much for hanging in there. So let's see, what are we going to get to? Let's go. Boom. Grandma hired hitman to do what? This one was, we were talking about love triangles and we've been on this like kind of subject area and we came across this one. And normally we don't do these type of reactions. We're like, okay, we got this one. This one's short and sweet and fun. So, well, when I say fun, I should say for the true crime world. I mean, it's interesting. That's a better word, not fun.
It's
There's
not
nothing.
really fun.
There's
You don't
nothing
wanna use
fun
that
in
word.
people, and I should say always use the word interesting because if you're like me, you like the true crime, you like getting into the science behind it, you like to get in there, and then that's the fun. It's the kind of discovery part of it. So sorry about
Yeah,
that
let's
poor
get
choice
into
of
it.
words. And let's get into it. But before we do that, Sharak, I have to say this is not our own video this week. It is a Dr. Oz episode, so we give him credit. So please go over there, subscribe. We'll put him credits in the description as well. And just a quick reminder that because we are reacting to the show, what we're going to do is stop the show in different parts. Try not to do it too often, but we have to comment on it to make it our
Exactly.
own. I mean, this is why we're here to provide our own input and our own creativity on
We
this.
try not to do it much, but once they're paused, we just want to.
Right, and we try not to talk
Right.
over them as well because we learned early on that annoys people, and I agree. So, without further ado, let's get started on this whole grandma hired hitman thing. Woof.
Today, I'm doing something I have never done before. I'm going to this woman's prison in upstate New York to talk with a woman who confessed to hiring a hitman to kill her daughter's former boyfriend. What made her do it? And what is life like now for her and her family? Today, I'm going behind bars. The 2014 headlines were both eye-catching and head-scratching. Melissa Schoenfield, a 57-year-old wife, mother, and grandmother, accused of hiring a hitman to murder the father of her young grandson. Cops claim the social worker, who was married to a dentist at the time, met an undercover detective at a local Walmart parking lot and offered up $5,500 down payment, half of the agreed-upon $11,000, to end the life of the man she says was abusing her then 31-year-old daughter and young grandchild, allegedly instructing the pretend hitman to throw the father's body to the alligators.
Yikes.
Schoenfield was pulled over minutes after leaving the lot and arrested, leaving her daughter with regrets.
She wouldn't be where she is if I didn't have a relationship with someone who was not a safe choice.
In 2015, after pleading guilty to second-degree attempted murder, Schoenfield would be sentenced to 5 years in prison, where she still remains. No longer married and separated from the daughter and grandchild she sought to protect.
Just pause it. Sorry there real quickly. I'm sorry. I know it's part of the story. But with the daughter saying, hey, it's all my fault if I was just with somebody who wasn't like this. But you know what? Nobody asked you, as far as we know, we have to watch the rest of the thing, that you told your mom to do this. You can only control your own actions. But anyhow.
I want my mom released. I wanted her released from the very beginning. My mom's not a bad person. She kind of fought with her heart and trusted the wrong people. It's long overdue for her to come home.
I must admit that when I met Melissa in prison, I was surprised. She seems like a typical mom, actually like a grandmother, which is what she is. But when this story first broke, it shocked everyone, especially those who knew the family. Joining us now, investigative correspondent Marsha Gavacampo, who has covered this story extensively. Can you describe the family at the time of Melissa's arrest.
Yeah, this family, Dr. Oz, is the last place where you would expect to find a murder for hire plot. The husband, a prominent dentist. Melissa was a social worker whose job it was to help people. These were respected and well-liked members of the community, and they had a beautiful family, a grown daughter, a grandchild. But clearly there was this hidden, darker side of alleged abuse that very few people knew about.
Yeah. During my interview with her, you're going to hear it in a second, she said that this could happen to anyone. I want your
I don't know about that. I disagree, Dr. Oz. It can happen to anyone. You could go high. I mean, there's so many possibilities. You could hire a private investigator to record things, to get evidence, to bring to the police. I know, like I said, I mentioned many times, I have police officer friends. I understand that. I mean, I know people are afraid to do that. There's many, you can up and move. There's so many things you can do.
Exactly.
I think
But this
that
is what what she chose to do.
what she chose to do. But let's see if it convinces us and you as we watch this. We had to do this. This was a bizarre one. Okay, let's keep going.
remember that. Lisa Schoenfeld, there was one question that continued to haunt me. How did she end up here? This is a first for me. I've covered the events leading to crimes and the aftermath, but I've never been inside a prison to meet a criminal, to see what it's really like to be in prison. There are no cell phones allowed, no electronics, just the minimal equipment for my crew. Lisa, thank you for spending some time with me. And I've got to say that when you think of, at least when I think of a person in prison for hiring a hitman, you're not what I would imagine. A grandmother's not what pops into your mind. You must hear that, I would hope.
All the time. The thought of taking somebody's life, I still can't wrap my brain about where I was. I just think it was total desperation. And not being able to see that there were any other choices, because I couldn't see any other choices.
So can I get into how this all came down?
My daughter wound up moving home when her son was 3 months old. The abusive situation just became over the top. So as she moved home Thanksgiving with her baby and her 2 dogs, very stressful. He didn't stop. He still continued to harass her. And it never ended. It was like poking somebody, you know, and the kids in the back seat, they just keep poke, 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 poke.
What was that, Sean?
Yeah, just of course, you want to get a protection order and call the police, but just thinking.
Yeah, not only that, but put a records if it's happening this often. And again, I'm not trying to be desensitive. Trust me, I don't want to go through it. I think a lot of us have had people that have gone through maybe not to this level, but similar experiences, and it is awful. I don't mean to diminish it, but I think from her perspective, there's other things, and we'll hear what she has to say.
Yeah,
There's just still other things that you can do besides going to that extreme.
And finally, you just lose it, and that's really what happened. So this just became larger than life.
Did your daughter want to leave him?
Yes. It just took time. We had to plan it. We had to do this carefully.
What was your biggest fear for your daughter, for your grandson?
I wasn't sleeping well at all. I was terrified of what was going to happen to this baby. And there's something special about grandparenting that's very different than parenting. And I vowed to keep him safe.
And why couldn't you call child services? I mean, there's systems to protect children.
I feared that if Child Protective got involved, that somehow or another he'd wind up in foster care. And even though my daughter was doing nothing wrong, that was my fear. We called the police. When we would call the police, he has to do something here. He would be ever so polite that, yes, officer, I'm not going to do this again. I think you reach a point where you stop thinking. And the desperation for safety, you're not logical anymore.
Now, one thing I want to talk about, I just want to remember, is she's a social worker now. She's saying that if she called child services, she knows the steps of child services. So that part right there is just kind of questionable, because when you call, the procedure and the process. You are a great grandmother, and maybe they take it from but they'll still take it, give it to the grandmother and stuff. So that was kind of, you're a social worker, so you know what the process is. You probably even call on other people too.
And some people are not like this. I'm like this, that I like to think of worst case scenarios so I can, go through all the options, but sometimes you don't always get all the worst case scenarios. In her mind, if she thought this was a failed attempt, or maybe she got caught, like look at her now. If you're in jail, you can't help your daughter at all. And now it's all heightened up on him. He's probably getting more angry. So you kind of defeat the purpose. I mean, she probably figured she was going to get caught.
Yeah.
But anybody who looks this up, there's really not. Some people say the hitman, hire for hitman thing is almost a fictional. But I think what the whole point is, it's very rare you're going to find a legit hired hitman. A lot of these are not true. It's just really weird. But anyway, let's keep going.
That's what happens. You make a huge mistake is what happens.
When was the first moment you actually thought about hiring a hitman?
When my husband came into the bedroom and said to me, this has to end.
And what about that comment made you think about a hitman, about killing this person?
It's the way he said end. And it was enough. There was no other way to make him stop in my mind at that point.
It's subtle, but you hear it in her voice as she tries to make sense of what went down. I don't know how many of you have experienced this in their lives. You made a bad mistake and you try to figure out what, when you dissect it, could explain it. And I began to appreciate she had fear. She obviously had not been taken care of when she was a young woman, and she wanted to be a better mother than she thought she had.
And the thing of it is one thing I thought of too, and again, just because, I know some people in this area of this field, is like, why didn't she at least go to a state police, regular police, somebody in law enforcement and say, okay, if you can't really do anything, can you give me advice on the steps of what I can do? If this is going on, what can I see a lot of the people do that? They go to cops, okay, you guys can't do anything today. You're just going to let them go. But what can I do to protect myself? What can I do to prove myself to get this person? Do I need to record? They might have something that could help. It just seems like all the possibilities weren't exhausted. And not to judge, I don't see it here, and I don't see it in her explanation. I didn't see that she did X, Y, and Z. It just sounded like, we had enough of it, so we just jumped to that point. Let's see. Anything else, Rock? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that makes it. You made a good point on that.
And it led to an inexcusable error.
Yeah.
So Melissa had never been in trouble before, just so you're all clear on this, to our knowledge.
Yeah.
And you covered these crime stories for years. You've dealt with a lot of criminals. How common is it that someone who's never crossed the border between honesty and illegal activity does something like this? How does someone like her do something like this?
Yeah, when we see crimes like this, they're almost always either a crime of passion or a crime of protection. Someone who has no criminal history, someone who is not a criminal, is doing something like this because they feel they have been pushed to the edge. And it's interesting because in the interview, you hear her say she thought her grandson would go to foster care. This was a woman who worked as a social worker. So you've got to imagine she's seen these things happen over and over again, and she's thinking, could this happen to my family? She seemed to be committed at any cost to protect her daughter and her grandson from these allegations of abuse by the grandson's father, her daughter's former boyfriend. And this was not the first time he faced accusations of abuse. He faced similar allegations from a former girlfriend. Now, we should point that he has vehemently denied any allegations of abuse. He's never faced any charges in this case. But it does seem that Melissa felt like this was her only way to protect her family.
I just want to point something out. Again, there have never been any charges filed against the boyfriend, but this is not really about him. It's about the fact that she felt, and she's inside the system, she felt the system wouldn't protect her and her daughter, so she had to do it. So what does the man who Melissa wanted killed say about all this?
Yeah, he said he was shocked by all of this. He had no idea why she would want to have him killed. He said he hadn't even spoken to her for years, so this really caught him off guard. And he said today that he pities her.
How did you find this hitman, the person you were going to hire?
I'm a therapist. I was a therapist. And there was somebody who was thrown out of a government agency saying that he had bipolar disorder and he had a bunch of weapons that he wasn't supposed to have. And in time we learned that he did not have bipolar disorder. In fact, it was a seizure disorder. So he was grateful to be able to get off a lot of the meds he was on and said, if there's anything you ever need, just ask me. So I didn't know anybody to do this. How do you find somebody? I have no idea what you do. So I called him and I asked. I explained the situation. He hung up saying that, you're on a phone and I can't help you. 10 minutes later, I don't remember if it was Facebook or a text message he sent me to give me time to work on this. In the 10 minutes that it took him to write that, he'd already called the police. And the police obviously said, let's see where she's going to go with it.
Her former patient connected her with a hitman named Jay, who agreed to do the hit for $11,000. They arranged to meet to exchange the down payment.
We went to the Walmart parking lot. He came, he found my car, got in, I handed him the money, and I said to him, I wiped the money down. He took the money. He looked at me and said, you sure you want to go through with this?
And you remember that movie we watched? I forgot who
You always
starred
say
in
that.
it.
Are you sure?
Remember that hitman guy, and he
Yes,
falls in love with one of the women he's
yeah.
supposed to hit, and it was just on one of the Netflix or something. It reminded me of this, like, how do you get into character? How do you become like a hitman? But going back, that was interesting how they brought up, like, your point with the social work.
Mm-hmm.
Shook my hand, left my car, and I pulled out, and I thought to myself, I can't do this. Who are you? And I stopped, I braked, and I thought, I can't stop this.
You made a comment to the undercover officer, the hitman. When he asked what to do with the body, you said, throw his body to the alligators.
It's come back to haunt me in many, many ways.
Yeah.
I said to him, what are you going to do with the body? And in hindsight, body, I'm going down here, no matter what, once I said body. And he looked at me really puzzled, and I said, you're gonna be in Florida, throw it to the gators. Clearly that wasn't a very funny comment at the time, and that's the comment, unfortunately, that went international.
Yes.
That's
why we had the
careful what you
photo
say.
of the...
Sadly, my grandson thinks that my favorite animal is a alligator.
As you're driving away and you looked in the rearview mirror and you saw those cop cars with their lights on coming, what were you thinking?
Believe it or not, I actually thought they were going after somebody else. So I pull over for them to pass, but they don't pass me. So I pull into the Ramada parking lot. And what's troublesome is I wasn't nervous. And I rolled down the window, and there were several officers there, and the female officer said to me, we believe a crime was about to be committed. I thought, nobody knows. How could they know?
Did anyone try to stop you from doing this who knew that you were up to it?
No.
The story in the press is that your husband did not know anything about this.
Correct.
Yes.
Did he?
You'll have to ask him.
Have to ask him. Melissa was very careful when talking about her ex-husband, but there are reports that Melissa said in the past that her husband did know that she was involved.
Oh, brother. Like,
Yeah, you have to ask
the
him that,
ex-husband, I'm not going to get into all this. But first off, let's say he was involved. Well, obviously, if he was involved enough where he was egging her on, I think that would have came out a lot earlier. Because
Exactly.
obviously, you don't want to be in jail and all and say, hey, he's the one that egged me on. I was emotionally, and he took advantage. And, you'd hear all that.
Exactly.
But you don't hear that. So maybe because you don't like him anymore. I don't know. I'm not saying, and this is all allegedly, I don't know. Chirac, what do you feel about the way she said that and everything? What was your impression?
It was more than what was told. She wanted to be very careful with her words. And she didn't, this is live, everybody's watching this. So, there's a lot of gaps in here that she didn't talk about. Maybe he did know, of course. Oh, you have to ask him. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
So she basically says yes.
No.
Without being, she was slick saying, oh, you have to ask him, wink, wink. So basically, you could definitely read into it. That was not genuine. That was like sarcastic. So that was like saying, I'm going to say it without saying it. But it's like, well, why would you be saying it at this point? So if you knew, if you knew about it,
she was paused, and that's why she okay, let me just make sure.
Yeah,
I
but
don't say. Oh yeah, definitely he knew.
Well, but she basically said that in the way she said it. So what I'm
but
saying
the words
is,
didn't come out. Remember,
what's the
we talked
purpose
about
of it?
words.
To get him in trouble, because if he knew about it but didn't do anything about it, okay, but I don't know. I guess everybody should be, brought up to justice. We don't know the conversations, but it's really weird how she hasn't brought that up before. That's all. They get all this opportunity to do it. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, we have heard those reports, but he has denied having any knowledge about this plot. And in fact, he's never faced any charges related to this. And it's now her former husband.
Yeah. To me, as I spoke to her, it's just another example where she would take the hit for the family. She was always putting herself between her family and harm.
Yeah.
She'll be the one who makes the deal with the hitman. She'll procure the money somehow. She'll protect her daughter against issues that she was having in her life. Some feel Melissa's 5-year sentence was harsh. She could have gotten up to 25 years.
Exactly.
That's the maximum for this. What are your thoughts about the sentence?
Yeah, well, let's keep in mind, like you said, there are a lot of women who right now are serving much harsher sentences for the exact same crime. Murder for hire is no small thing. So she could be serving 25 to life. But the sentence does raise a really interesting debate because a lot of people see her as a woman who was pushed to the edge, who just wanted to protect her family. But on the other side, she tried to have a man killed. So ultimately, I think the important question is she a danger to the community and to society? I think we can all agree that she is not.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to...
All right.
And the question is...
You go first.
I'm just so curious of where's her daughter and the child now? Are they in custody? Well, they're not in custody, but are they with the family? Because remember, she said she didn't want to go into, like, they call it DCF, Department of Children and Families, because they're going to take the child. Did that happen anyway? Is the question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously something got resolved because we don't know if she's still with him or not. But obviously, maybe throughout this case, they decided to break it off, whatever. But I don't know. It was obvious that not all the options she vetted. She just said, "Okay, my family's in trouble. This gotta stop." In her mind, there was no way out of it. She didn't think of all these possibilities, which is really weird based on her vocation. So I thought that was really weird. But she decides to go to this nth degree. Now there's also a small possibility, which is probably not true, that this guy's like, oh, I was really shocked, meaning the perpetrator, the person that she's going to murder, was like, I don't even know what was going on. But, let's just assume he's a bad guy. There's so many other options to go through to get to this point. 5 years, to me, that's like, whoa. And that's a little light. But I don't know.
I want to say I definitely experienced. I know someone that actually went through something like this, and what they did, they actually beat up the guy. They like had a whole bunch of guys, and they just like beat him up. It's like, do not come around again. So
that's what they used to do in the old days. When the people from my family, the old country, came over to the United States, that's what you do. You had gangs, different people, you beat people up, and that's how you did it. I just don't understand it. The 5 years, people first, it's only 5 years. She should have probably almost got more. I think that's really low. We talked about this in one of our previous episodes, the different, the different scenario. She didn't actually kill anybody. Yeah, but it would have happened if the guy decided not to call the police. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think he did a good thing of calling the police, though.
I'm not the judge, but if I was, I would say, and again, we don't know all the data because this was a very quick episode.
Yes.
But I would have said, okay, what did you do? What were the actions you did first to feel that you had no other choices? What's the evidence that it was so bad that you had no other choices? You just decide to kill somebody. Well, I'm sure she might not do it again. She learned her lessons.
Oh, no,
But if you're still in that mind frame, I don't know. I don't know what the term would be. But let us know in the comment section and if you agree if 5 years was enough or it should have been more. But this was a real interesting one. We had to do it. I know we don't normally do this. I didn't think it was detailed enough for us to do our own episode on it. But it was something unique that we came across and we wanted to share with you guys. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
And check out our regular episodes. They come out at least every Thursday. And we start as new. If you haven't, I don't know what the time of this episode, it might be before or after, but we're getting a whole new AI all-star panel. We have avatars and we use AI technology behind the scenes to ask questions and get answers to questions. So we're getting into it more and more, and that's the wave of the future. So check that out.
Yes.
Shirok, anything else before we close?
I want to say thank you guys again for watching. We do always appreciate it. And remember, Thursdays we also do those shout outs, and please subscribe to that as well.
And
we appreciate that.
Yeah, and one more thing really quickly. If you like what you've seen and check out our other episodes, feel free to comment, like, definitely subscribe. If you want to join our membership, you just click on go to view channel, and then next to the subscribe option, you have a join button. Click on that. We have 2 tiers, member and lead. Member, you get early access to episode, loyalty badges and emojis, and team lead, you get regular shout outs, more than what we usually have, and special ones, and then photos and updates and things that are going on in our mind that you won't get just being a general viewer.
Yes.
So thank you so much, guys, again. Until next time.
Studio 70.
Here we go. Grandma Hitman hired Hitman. This is great. Look at the alligator. Looks like he's gonna give her a kiss. Okay, we out.